Hello and welcome to the Gothic Unicorn. Today we're going to be working in the big doll's house and attempting to put the attic together. Now it's been quite a while and I'm quite eager to see another room finished. With the delays that house moving brought last year, I would really like to see some progress on the house, not least because this month marks the 20th anniversary of me owning it. Yes, it's been 20 years and there is one room finished. For quite a while there was more than one room finished, but then I decided I didn't like it, that it wasn't quite what I wanted, and I went back to the beginning. And that's where we're at the moment, back at the beginning. So I'm going to endeavour to get the attic finished this month, even though there are a few things that I'm still not 100% sure about. And well, let's get on with it. One job that I do want to get done before I put the attic together is to fit the light for the room below. Now, my doll's house was fully electrified until I had one of my lights go bad. I don't know quite how to describe it other than that. I had a light that basically something went wrong on and it kept blowing the fuse. So my husband decided that while we'd got to do some work on the electrics, we might as well change all the bulbs to LED. Now I will actually be showing you a bit more regarding what we've done with that, but we've actually converted my existing light fixtures to LED. He can do all that, you know, he's great with the tiny little soldering and things like that. I'm not. I don't fully understand it. I've got some work to do on some of the lights myself. We need to put some resin in a few places to hold things in place or something. I can't remember off the top of my head. But the light that is going to go in the room underneath the attic is ready, and it's this one. And what I've actually done is I took a pre-existing light fixture which had a shade which was a printed design, and I've painted it with this sort of pastel rainbow stripy pattern. These are the colours that I'm going to be using for certain things in the room. This is a room that I've mentioned before that is going to be very out of character in some ways for the rest of the doll's house, but in other ways it's not. And this is actually a room that's a bit of a tribute to a real person. But when we get to that room, I will explain more. Just for the moment, I'm going to leave you wondering why I've gone for such unusual colours in my doll's house. So this needs fitting. Now, when I originally electrified the doll's house, which was good 16, 17 years ago, if not a little bit longer than that, I went with the wire, which was a wire with a plug on the end, and it plugged into a sort of like an extension cord, but for mini plugs. Now what we've done is, this has got no plug on the end because we're not using the plugs anymore. It's going to be wired straight into a control box. But I'm keeping the wires. Now a lot of people about this time, the big thing was using the copper wire technique or the hybrid technique, whereby this bit was wired and there was a plug on the end that fastened to the copper tape. I didn't want to do that because the copper tape tends to have to go underneath your decor, underneath your wallpaper. I wanted to do a lot of paint, and I was worried about being able to successfully disguise it. So I've got grooves that I cut out in the floors, and then the wires go through the ceiling of the room below, across the floor and out the back. That's what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to put this into place so that it's ready to go. I'm afraid at some point I've got to take Grandmama's workroom away to fit a light in the room underneath it. I just haven't got the light yet. That's something that will be coming up in the coming months, but yeah, I haven't done it yet. So that's going to be my first job, and then I'm going to look at actually putting together the attic. So I'm going to move over to the house, I think. I just wanted to try and show you where the little indentation is. It's a tiny little groove because the wire is not very thick, and it goes from a hole that's underneath here to a hole that goes through the back of the floor and at the back of the doll's house. Now, I'm not going to recommend how I actually did this, because I didn't use a proper tool. I didn't use, you know, anything like a little Dremel type multi-tool or anything like that. I did it with the wrong side of a table knife. When I say the wrong side of the table knife, I actually did most of these with the handle of a very old, very heavy table knife. I did a line and I started off with a ruler, and then I just sort of gouged it out. I don't recommend that. It took a long time, and it was very, very awkward. But that's where I'm going to put the wire in. So I'm going to move the camera out of the way because I need to get closer, and I'm going to fit the light underneath. Now the light is in. You can just see it peeping out down there. The wire is in its little groove for the most part. It's a bit twisted at this one end, but I'm hoping that I can make it work without having to unthread it all and try again. I've actually got a little bit of tape holding it down towards the back, but that's just so that it doesn't shoot out in the meantime. And I'm now going to fit my floor, possibly with a little bit of tape along this front edge, because the front edge has got a bit of a habit of kicking up, and that then affects how the front of the roof closes or doesn't. And then we can start actually putting the room itself together. I have made a start on putting the room together. I've put the floor in, which has developed a bit of a bulge, but hopefully when I put more things in, that will even itself out. I've put the chimney breast in, and obviously I've put the false wall in at the back. I've got my wonderful body bag hanging there, and I do like that little touch, although you won't actually see that much of it, not from straight on, once the rest of the furniture is in. Now, I've actually got a picture behind me on my computer showing me what's got to go where, and I'm going to start with the chair, which is going to come over to this side a bit. I'm not sure where exactly I want to put it. I'll put it there for now, and we will fiddle about with it in a little while. Now, in front of the chair is going to go my toy box, which is very well packed, as you can see, and I'm going to sort of put that there because I do want that to actually feature quite prominently. Now, of course, because I took the picture from straight on, I can't actually see how everything goes at the back, but I think that what I've got is I've got my tea chests at the back, just blocking the cupboard, and then I've got in my little plan, at least, I've got my boxes somewhere along the line. I've got a load of cardboard boxes, and I think that what I intended was for that one to sort of go there, and then the box of magazines, looks like the box of magazines, to be sitting on the top. Yeah, that sort of is looking something like. Now the next piece to put in is going to be the screen, I think, and that one I know I've got to fiddle around with, so I will be back in a moment. Now there had been a bit of an incident with the screen while it was in storage and transit and everything else that's gone on in the last year, and as a result it was actually damaged a little bit. Well, the hinge, which was only paper or cardstock between these two, the middle section and this section, had ripped. So I've actually had to stick it into place when I've put it into place. It's probably a bit straighter out there than I would have liked, so if I move it that way a bit, that might work a bit better. And then I've got my rather tarnished brass coat stand, hat stand, whichever way you want to look at it. Now the next big piece to go in there is of course my trunk, and my trunk is designed to stand open and to have quite a prominent part to play in the doll's house, and I do like that. It gives me quite a bit of floor area still. I want to make it look like the young members of the household have been playing in here when perhaps they shouldn't, and that's why there's going to be lots of sort of bits on the floor, that kind of thing, and that's always been the sort of look that I've gone for. Now, along with my trunk, I've got a matching box which does actually need filling. I've also got somewhere, but it isn't with the stuff for the attic, I've got a little vanity case that I made some time ago. That's going to go in there, I think, but I do want to make some cosmetics to fill it. I've also got a little wooden treasure chest. That's going to go sort of popped just out of the way. I'm looking for there to be a lot of interest whatever angle you look at. This room is supposed to be stuffed, over full. I am also thinking maybe I'll get one of my broken mirrors in here. I have got one in the Grandmama's attic, but I might put another one in here, or I might put a framed picture sat on the floor or something. And then I've got also my hat boxes. The bottom one is one that I made myself from a kit. Looks a bit too new, but I can't bring myself to damage that one. Damage that one by aging it. So if I pop those sort of so they're just visible, so it looks like there's something there. Now I will move the camera in and sort of give you a more close to view once we're sort of arranged. And then I think it's little bits. I've got magazines and papers and things. Now this one I know I want to go on the floor in front of the chair. Those are my sort of ghostly magazines. I've got an old stack of newspapers. I do like using a stack of newspapers just to sort of indicate clutter. I know it's a bit sort of lame, but it does sort of add to this idea of clutter. And it's an attic, that is what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be cluttered, it's supposed to be not exactly the most well looked after space in the house. And then I've got a footstool which we'll put just to the side of the chair. Maybe somebody's been sat on that. I've got a couple of actual vintage Matchbox toys. These actually probably predate Matchbox. I think they're Lesney miniatures. They're tiny little cars, but I want to sort of make it look as if somebody has found them and has been playing with them. I like the truck. Yeah, it doesn't quite work. Maybe if I pop it there or pull those out a little bit and then sort of put it apart on, that's better. I'm going to be fiddling with this room. The last piece that I've got that I made is my little memory box, my little coffin shaped memory box, and I'm going to prop that there as if somebody's been rooting about in it. And then the other bits I've got that I've pulled out possibly to use in here, I've got a toy box. This is a Fisher-Price toy box. Again, I'm going to sort of pop it in there. I've got Operation. Maybe if I stand that up against the toy box, the Castle toy box. And then I've got a couple of pieces that the viewers of a certain age will recognise. I've got the infamous telephone, and I've got the little, I don't know what it was called, but I'm just going to pop these in sort of in the foreground. They need ageing realistically, I know that. They look too clean. But at the moment, I'm quite liking how it looks. And then the final piece I'm going to put in for the moment is this ragdoll, which is a piece that I bought ages ago. And I've got in mind to have her sort of on there, or maybe in some way hanging from the coat hook in time. I'm not 100% sure about that, but you know, I'm sort of, yeah, I think I'm going to step away from it now and give it a moment, and hopefully it will still appeal to me when I come back. So I walked away from it. I've done a couple of things around the house and I'm still quite liking how it looks. I've actually moved the camera a little bit over so that you can see from a slightly different angle, and you can see that from this angle you can't see that there's the cupboard and the body bag at the back. However, if I move you back around here, which I will do in a moment, you can see it. You get different views from different angles, which is what I want. I don't want it to just be a look straight on, see everything situation. I've also found the little vanity case that I made, and I'm going to pop that in here. I'll pop it there for now. I want to make some perfume bottles to go in there, I think. That seems like the most logical use of the little box, but I need to wait until all my beads are back in the craft room, because they're not at the moment. So that will just sit there for a while waiting. The fact that it's part open will mean that at least when anybody looks in future, they'll actually wonder what's inside. And that's kind of what I'm going for. You know, when you've got a box or a cupboard or something, it's the idea that you can see bits of it and you wonder what's inside. Now, one thing that I was considering putting into the attic was some kind of a rug or maybe a rolled carpet, but I don't think I've got room for anything of a reasonable size. I was thinking of having it sort of almost coming through from the back part of the attic with the curtain over it, but I'm not sure that that's necessary. I'm quite liking how full the room is. There's a certain balancing act when it comes to dolls' houses as to whether you make the room look realistic and livable, whereby you leave spaces between furniture so that people could move around and use chairs and that sort of thing, or you just sort of pile the rooms up. In an attic, I think it's quite easy to just pile the room up and be done with it. And yeah, the more is more is definitely the look I'm going for in this particular space. So moving the camera over to this right hand side, you can see that from over here you get a glimpse through behind the screen, a little glimpse of the body bag that makes you wonder what it is. Well, we know, don't we? And as I say, it just keeps the interest going in the room. One thing I have thought, and this is actually because you've got the landing with the little sewing machine in shot at the moment, I have actually thought that maybe what I should have done was to have got rid of the stairs. Certainly this top flight of stairs, put a door at the back so it looks like you come through, and then I'd have had more of a space there. There's a lot of things that now, 20 years on, if I was going to build this doll's house, I'd do differently. I wouldn't include the stairs all the way up because it's a lot of wasted space, and I like the idea of the unseen. If you've watched my videos with my 1/48 scale houses, I'm very much into the what's outside. Let's not knock everything flying. What's not visible, what's beyond the scene, and suggestion, a door that suggests that there's more to the property than there is, which is what I'm doing obviously in here, and I've done in Grandmama's attic. Is there's a room beyond the room. So I would be very tempted to do away with certainly the top 2 staircases, and then use the landing spaces, this space and the space below it, as additional usable space. That is my one complaint about this house, is that the hallway on the bottom isn't usable because of how the stairs are, and it is the one disappointing thing. But it's one of those balancing acts. I fell in love with the house and I have to deal with it. I also wouldn't have done the basement quite the way it is now. It did quite well for many years, but I almost want more space between the kitchen. Not more space. I want less wall between the kitchen and the central section, which has always been a sort of pantry kind of area. And I'm not sure if I'm going to actually try and take some of the wall out in the basement. I've thought about it. I'm not 100% sure that I've got the confidence to do it, but we shall see. That might well happen later in the year. Aside from that, I think I need to figure out what I'm going to do with this little top landing area. I've got a sewing machine on there simply because it's a piece that I've had for a good many years. It's not an expensive piece, but it is a piece that sort of reminds me of certain family pieces. If I moved over here, it might even be in focus. The camera's focusing in and out of its own accord. Yeah, if I move it back a bit, it might. And I'm not sure whether to maybe take this sewing machine apart and make a new one where the drawers open. You can buy expensive ones that have got opening drawers and things, but this is just a solid piece of wood with faux drawers on the front. And I think it might be nice to change it up a bit, if I decide that is what's going to actually remain on the top landing. I don't know. The landing spaces are one of the bits that I'm really unsure about, and it is actually the staircase and landing that has never been finished. The rooms were all finished after a fashion, but the centre of the house wasn't, because I could never really figure out what to do with it. So who knows, I may decide to do something else. Now, if I was going to go in order, I'd now move down to the floor below, because I decided to start at the top. I started at the top simply because, and if I can manage to actually turn this round, I knew what I wanted to do with this room, which has become Grandmama's workroom. You've seen it recently. If you saw my Christmas videos, I decorated this for Christmas because it was what I got done. And that's the only reason why I started at the top. The more sensible thing might have been to have started at the bottom and worked up from an electrical point of view at any rate, because then you're working on the room below and you've not got floors to take up and such like. But that would be too logical, wouldn't it? So anyway, I have not decided if I'm going to carry on underneath. I've done some work for this room down here, this one, which is going to be my mad scientist's laboratory, or for the more unusual room on that side, or whether I will actually go down to the bottom of the house and start work on either the dining room, which is going to be the bottom of this side, or I'm not sure I'm ready to work on the library, which is the bottom on that side, but or the basement room, which is going to be a living room, sitting room of sorts. Lots of thoughts, lots of things to mull over. I am going to consider one of my principal goals for the year completed. We've got another room back together. It needs a few little touches, but the doll's house always does. You always see things that you could change, that you could age things differently. I know I need to do some ageing, but I'm just going to leave it as it is for now, and be grateful that after almost 20 years it's starting to come back together. You know, this was a big aim for me, to actually get something done, and I figured that if I could get the attic into the house rather than in a box, by the time that the 20th anniversary came round, I'd be happy. I'm not exactly sure what date the anniversary is. It was sometime towards the end of January, so I've beaten it. But the house arrived fully built. I bought a kit and had somebody build it for me because I had no idea where to start at that time. I'm not 100% sure I'd know where to start with a 1/12 scale house these days, but I'm a bit more likely to just get stuck in than I was back then. and it was delivered on a pallet, dropped off on my drive, and I was left staring at this really big house, wondering how I was going to get it inside. And it was actually thanks to a really good neighbour that I had at the time, who came home for lunch, thankfully, and helped me carry it in, that I actually got it into the house and the whole journey began. But there's going to be more from it this year. Obviously I want to work on the 1/48 scale stuff as well. At the moment I just want to race off and get that particular house, get Hangman's Halt finished, but I'm trying to pace myself because I don't want to overload the channel with too many videos in the smaller scale, because I know there's a lot of you that like 1/12 scale, and I do try and balance it out a bit. But it's really, really easy when you get into a project to just want to keep working at it, and when you're trying to make videos and do everything else around it, it's not always easy. But we shall try. I'm going to, as I say, mull over everything regarding the house and decide which room's next. I am really considering doing one of the living rooms, either the dining room or the sitting room, just because I really enjoyed decorating the doll's house for Christmas, and I'd like to be able to decorate for other times of the year, and you can't really do that in the rooms that I've got at the moment. Well, you can a little bit for certain things, but you need a more normal living space. And it's going to take a while. If I go room by room, the rate I'm going, it could take years. And I really, really don't want to be spending the next 20 years still working on the doll's house, because I'll have changed my mind again by the time I get to the end. We do that, don't we? If you've enjoyed this video, in spite of my ramblings, please like, comment and subscribe. Maybe even ring that notification bell so you know when I upload a video. I upload videos pretty much every week. I aim for a Friday, but real life gets in the way. And just lately real life has been getting in the way a lot. But we're going to work hard at trying to get the videos done and up for a Friday. That's Friday evening UK time. I'm not putting an actual time on it because I don't know. It could be any time, especially if I forget. When they turn up at the same time every week, it means I've scheduled them, and I'm not that organised at the moment. Anyway, until next time, bye.